You have the iPad?
They're not. They're very much not.
I'm glad you're here. Okay, we're going to get started. I'm glad you all were able to come here this afternoon, and for those of you who are watching online as well, thank you for taking some of your Sunday afternoon to be here at UCA and listen and share and dialogue together about where God's calling us to go as a school. I've heard much over the last few weeks from parents. They're hearing this and that, and I've had emails and phone calls, and some of it's been pretty much online, and some of it has been way out there. And so I thought, I think it's best if we just sit down and dialogue as a family together and share the direction we're going, be able to answer questions you might have, and walk through that with a little bit of clarity. So I hope we won't be here longer than an hour, hour and a half at the most. And we got some mics set up here toward the end. If you have any questions, comments, as well as if you're viewing online, you can submit questions online, and I can try and answer them that way as well. But before we begin, let's ask God to be with us this afternoon, and let's bow our heads in prayer. Father in heaven, Lord, I just thank you for this school, Upper Columbia Academy. Thank you for the teachers, the staff, the students, the families who sacrificed to have their students here. Father, as we dialogue today, as we discuss, and as we vision together for where you're calling UCA to go in the future, I just ask your Spirit would be in this room. Guide us, Lord, and direct us. In your name we pray. Amen. So I have a short presentation. I'm going to share with you a little bit, but I wanted to begin with kind of talking to you about my journey a little bit and where I am with education, specifically Adventist education. Over the past probably 2.5 years, I have been more and more convicted that we really need to rethink how we do school. We need to relook at it, and not just in a departmentalized manner, not just in minor shifts of scheduling and things of that nature, but an actual reshifting of our focus and an actual rethinking of how we do school and how it works. And I'll tell you some of that rationale, I'll tell you some of the reasons, and some of the I guess, reasons that I believe we need to take a hard look at this. Number one, we are right now living in a time unlike any other time in Earth's history. The world is changing so fast. Information is coming upon us and our kids in such rapid pace. I was at a conference of educators, about 500 educators, and the keynote speaker, he made a statement that has stuck with me. And he said, you guys, this is not an Adventist setting at all, but he said, you realize that you are preparing these high school kids for a world that doesn't even exist yet. And as those words sank in, it got me thinking. And I was thinking to myself about, we in Adventist education, I believe we need to be setting the bar, not following. We need to be leading, not reacting to where things are going. And I started looking and doing some research, watching documentaries, diving into books. And the more I've studied, the more I've become convicted that it's time we step out in faith and say, where is God calling us to go? And I will share with you, this is what I share with our board and our faculty, but this is a conviction on my heart. I firmly believe God is calling Upper Columbia Academy not just to be a good Adventist school, which it is. It's a phenomenal school. God has blessed us tremendously. But I believe that it can be a model boarding academy, not just for Washington or Idaho or Oregon, but actually for the entire North American division. And the vision I shared with our board is one that we would develop something here that is so unique in Adventist education. It's being done in public education right now, but unique to Adventist education, that teachers would actually fly in here and actually be trained and actually be equipped as far as what is happening here. So a model boarding academy for the entire North American division that is willing to engage students with project-based learning opportunities while leading them to a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And the more I've dived into research, the more that I've read and the more that I've dialogued with our current students, I love the opportunities I get to take them to the Harvester each week. And I sit with 4 of them every week. I just randomly select 4 kids, and we go. And I sit there and I tell them, I say, guys, I have no objective other than just to listen to you. And boy, do they share. And they open up. And over again, there's a central theme that I hear from the kids. And it's a theme of when I ask them the question, what can we do here at UCA to really engage you? Really engage you. And I've heard this theme over and over again as I sat there listening to students, and it's make our learning real. Make it authentic. Make it mean something to us. And so when I take those testimonies of our real-life current students, and then I transfer that to data that I'm reading and I'm looking at from where schools that are adopting a more project-based model of instruction, a more hands-on learning approach, and I'm seeing the data that's being driven from those schools where students who are engaged in those atmospheres and those environments are much more likely to have higher test scores as well as complete a 4-year university. I start putting the 2 and 2 together, and I start thinking to myself, maybe we should start really rethinking how we engage our students in the classroom here at UCA. I share this with the board. I believe UCA is built on 6 different legs, if you will. Obviously, the first and foremost is our spiritual life, but I believe academics, I believe our music. I will share much more about our student farm that we're going to be building, our residential life, our dorms, and then student life, which incorporates our ASB, our athletic program, all of those different things into it. But I believe that UCA is built on those 6 legs. We're going to dive into a little bit more here this afternoon. I want to show you a quote, and it was the reason I put this up here is I was watching a documentary about Finland. If you've dove into education and you've done a lot of studies, you will quickly know that Finland leads the world in their educational system. And there's a wide variety of reasons for this, and we're not going to go into the Finnish school system here this afternoon. But in one of the documentaries, I found it so intriguing as they were sitting there interviewing one of the principals. Not an Adventist, not even a Christian if I know of, but he says a statement that made me think, wow. And that was this. The interviewer was asking him, he says, what do you do differently? Why are you guys so successful? And he said, our goal here in Finland is to create thinkers, not just reflectors. And I thought to myself, where have I heard that before? And so I had to pop this quote up here from the book Education. It is the work of true education to train the youth to be thinkers and not mere reflectors of others' men's thought. So we've begun a journey here. Back in the fall, I first presented to our board the idea about UCA transitioning and transforming into a more of a project-based learning model here on our campus. And the board said, we like it. let's explore it more. And so we formed a group of teachers, and we took a trip a few weeks ago, actually. We flew down to San Diego, and then we flew up to Milwaukee, and we visited some schools. These were all public schools that we visited. One of them was High Tech High in San Diego. Very unique public school. They have over a 1,300 student waiting list. They have a lottery-based system in order to get into their school. And it is a school that is built upon the premise that student engagement and student work and hands-on learning is what will drive these students to excel and achieve their best, not just regurgitating facts, not just being able to memorize whatever for a test and then forget it. And so I want to share with you some pictures. And I apologize, these are a little fuzzy, but I took some pictures, and all throughout this school, it is the one thing that stands out to you is student work is everywhere. It's displayed all over. The projects they engaged in, this is inside of a classroom, and everything in there is designed and done by the students. This is the hallway of the classroom. You notice those guys there. When we went down, there was a team from Shaw Industries. If you're aware of Shaw Industries, they're a major carpet company in the United States. And they had sent a team the same time we were there to tour of 30 different people from Shaw to see what they're doing in their school that's working so that they can incorporate it as they look in their educational space for their business. Again, down the hallway, student work. You'll see these kids right here. They were sitting there in the hall. They were filming. You can't see it there because it's dark. But they were filming for a project in one of their classrooms in the hall as we were walking down. Okay, I'm going to go back because So as we dove into that, our teachers, we were able to interact in the classrooms, to visit, to share, to ask questions to these students. And we then came back to UCA, and I took my staff, and we had a faculty meeting where we dove into this. How could this look on our campus? What if we were to transition to a model of education such as this? How could it be incorporated here? Doesn't mean that we just need to copy something and become a different school. UCA is unique, but what are some things that we could potentially take and bring into our setting that could help us thrive and help us grow, and I believe, if done right, help us have a waiting list of students from all over the country that want to be here at UCA. I truly believe that. And so we prayed over it. Our staff dove into it, and we voted to take some recommendations to our board. And these recommendations I want to share with you here because our faculty has voted it and our board has voted it. And I'm going to unpack it for you this afternoon, hopefully, in a manner which you can take away from here saying, hey, I get it, at least. And those four things, or actually there's several things, but number one, we voted to move to a project-based learning campus beginning this next school year. Now, when I say that, some people are like, what is that? What does that look like? There's still going to be lecture. There's still going to be your math homeworks, and there's still going to be different things. But each class is going to be tasked and challenged. Each teacher is going to be trained and equipped. We're going to be flying in professionals, and I'll talk a little bit later about funding we've received for this. But we're going to be doing training for our staff to incorporate in the class not just a sole lecture time, but actually a project-based approach to learning it. So that if you are teaching a mathematic concept, you present the lesson, and then you engage the kids in an actual project that then takes the lessons that you're using and makes the kids use their own creativity to build something, to create something that's useful. For example, one of the projects that was done down at High Tech High. The students told us about this themselves. They in their English class, combined with their biology class, they had a combination of humanities and English. The San Diego Bay there were some major issues with pollution and different things like that. Well, they teamed up with some different local scientists and different things, and the students wrote a guide to the San Diego Bay. They wrote a book. They then published it. They put it on Amazon. It's sold over 30,000 copies. It's been recommended, and it's all done straight from the students. But they took the lessons that they're learning in the classroom, applied it into their hands-on learning, and put something together that they walk away with and like, hey, that meant something. That lesson in English or that lesson in biology, I can actually utilize it and transform it into something that really I walk away and say, wow, that's neat. And I can go on and on and on about different examples, different things of what different projects are. But as we've been praying together, and as we're going to be talking tomorrow night in our staff, we're going to be looking at how can this work here at UCA? What can we do? Not just to put a piece of paper on a wall and call it a project, but actually have projects that are student-owned, student-led, and that have actual desired outcomes that benefit the community we serve. And take the learning that we have and create students to actually have to problem solve, not just memorize, and not just regurgitate a bunch of different facts that, quite honestly, if we're honest with ourselves, are not really preparing them for the world that they are going to be entering into. And I don't have time today, but if you actually look at our educational system across North America, it was actually formed and actually made and actually structured to prepare kids to enter into a manufacturing factory-type job. If you do research, you study, that's how it was set up. And very little, by and large, has changed from the 20s and 30s until now in a lot of our schools across the country. Not just Adventist schools, but public schools. But over the last 5 to 6 years, if you start doing research, you will see a massive shift and a massive trend in some creative charter schools as well as public schools that are venturing out to saying, you know what, we need to rethink how we do that. And so that is the number one, moving towards more of a project-based learning model and approach. Number two, the next thing we're going to launch next year is an internship program here at UCA. And this will be required for all juniors. And how this is going to work is this. We're going to partner with a company that will then pair all of our students with employers either here locally or in their local hometowns. And this will be done over a 2-week period in March, the first 2 weeks of March next year. High Tech High does it for an entire month. We're going to start at 2 weeks. We have a lot on our program and a lot of different things, so we're going to start there. What will happen is there will be no school for those students during that 2 weeks period of time. The dorms will obviously be open. We'll have rec in the evenings, so we're not going to shut that down. But if a student wants to go home for those 2 weeks, they can, or they can stay here and we'll provide the transportation. But during that time, they will then go and they will intern in a local business that pairs with them. They will work there. They will build a portfolio, and they're going to write a report on their internship, and they're going to document that all together, that then their senior year, they will be able to use to put onto their college applications that they interned at wherever it is. I was speaking to students down at High Tech High who have been in their internship program, and over again, I asked them, I says, what's the best thing about this school? Bar none, every one of them says, it's the internship. It's our junior year internship. And some of the kids have asked me, well, why can't we do it our senior year? Some of this year's juniors. And the reason for this is because twofold. The time that it fits best in our schedule, in our calendar, is March, due to the fact that we have a lot of prep time in the fall getting ready for the Fox concert. And it's very difficult to take kids out for a block of time when you have concerts getting ready to musically. But once you get to March, we're kind of a little bit of a lull. Our athletics are pretty much done. Our music is in a little bit of a lull there. And so we felt like that's the best time for our campus to do this. And so most seniors are actually applying for college earlier than March of their senior year. A lot of our seniors already have acceptances back from colleges they've applied to. And so if we wait till our senior year and we wait till March of the senior year, it's just too late. So if we do it the junior year, allow them to work through that, put that all together, then they're ready for the fall of their senior year to start having that ready to go for when they apply to colleges. There will be an individual on campus that will be overseeing this, that will be helping, and then the teachers that teach those classes during that 2-week period are not just going to be out on the golf course, but they're going to be actually mentoring and working with the kids, making sure that they're connected, making sure things are going well, and staying in touch with them. So students will have the option to choose. If they have an awesome internship opportunity at their home and they live in Portland, Oregon, or wherever it is, they are going to be free to go home and do that. They're there. If they want to stay here on campus, we will provide transportation for them and help them with that there. So that is the second thing that we're going to be looking to implement next year. The third change to our program is, you might think it's minor, but it's going to take some adjustment, and that is we're not going to have bells on our campus. And you think, how are we going to do that? And it was interesting, as I've dialogued with some individuals, one of the principals looked at me and says, Eric, do you ever start your faculty meeting with a bell? And I said, no. Do you start board meetings with a bell? And I said, no, I don't. He said, well, why don't we train these kids to be on time because they need to be on time, not because there's a bell. And so we're still going to have a schedule here at UCA. We're still going to keep track of attendances and tardies. But we're going to shift and start transforming and educating both our teachers and our students to let class out on time and to be on time because you need to do it. Because when they enter into work and they enter into life, there's no bell. There's no bell in life. And so it's going to take some learning. It's going to take some education for all of us together as we move for that. I can guarantee you in the first few weeks next year, it's going to be a journey for us. But we're going to begin that journey and hopefully make it something that's beneficial here. Another thing we've looked at is transforming our Bible curriculum here on our campus. I will tell you that one of the number one things I hear when I go to principals meetings, when I go to education meetings, when pastors get together, is the rate of our students that leave the church once they walk out of high school, not just UCA. And there are so many different reasons you can look at. But as a leader, I fear that unless we actually say to ourselves, we've got to do something, to try something, instead of just sitting here year after year and continuing the exact same thing that we've been doing and looking at each other and saying, yeah, these kids are leaving the church. And we shake our heads and we build our calendar, we build our school year, and we do the exact same thing. So a few months ago, I got my Bible teacher together and we prayed. And I said, guys, what can we do with our Bible curriculum to engage our kids more? So it's not just a Bible class for all year long, but it's actually something that they feel like is helping them and growing them in their walk with Christ. How can we ground them in the truth? What can we do? And so we've come up with a unique initiative that we're going to be launching that is actually quite radical in the way that we do our Bible classes. And I'm going to show you, and I apologize because what I have up here is a scanned copy. And so it's not the best quality, but I'm going to walk you through it. And so what we've done is we have taken our entire Bible curriculum over 4 years, and we have broken it down to quarters. And students are going to rotate on a quarter basis, and they're going to rotate to different teachers. So instead of our freshmen waiting until their junior year to see Pastor Fred is going to teach a quarter unit in freshmen. Instead of our church pastor only teaching freshman Bible, he's going to rotate and he's going to teach seniors as well. So we're going to have our staff touching more of our kids throughout the school year. And so what we've done is we've taken the Bible curriculum that we have, but we've greatly expanded on it. And we've taken units, and so we're going to go a deep dive in those units so that the kids hopefully can have something that's more real and relevant, and not just look at Bible like another class period for the year. But they're going to be in a quarter, they'll be done with it, and then they rotate to something fresh and something new. And that's going to happen all year long. Our juniors and our seniors will then get to have an elective as well. And so they'll have an option to dive into one of the main classes, or if they want to go into an elective period, they can in those Bibles as well. And I will just very quickly try and unpack a little bit of this. I can't spend all afternoon going through all of the course descriptions of each one of these. It's going to be in the handbook. But for example, Tree of Life, Practical Living, you look at that. That's going to be engaging kids with our garden, with our farm, and spiritual lessons that come from that. World religions. This is going to be taking a look at everything from Hinduism to Buddhism to all the different world religions and who they are, so that we can prepare our kids to interact with the world they're entering into, but ground them in who they are, but have a knowledge about what do these other people believe, and why do they believe that, and how is that different from what we believe, and walk kids through that and give them that foundation, give that understanding. So anyhow, you can look at this. If you want to take a picture of it, you can. But I believe, my Bible teachers believe, they're excited about it, our faculty, that this can be something that hopefully will create some excitement amongst our kids for Bible class, and get them excited about it, and not just a whole year-long class of Bible. I want to walk you through a potential day. So by going to a different schedule, we're going to transition to a block schedule next year away from a 47-minute period. There's several reasons for that. Our school day next year is going to start at 8 o'clock. There's some reasons behind that as well, but we're going to have 85-minute class periods, roughly, I believe is what it is. It comes down to, we're very close to it. One of the reasons that we're going to transition to a block period and a block schedule, it's actually a modified block. It's called a modified AB schedule, is that in order for us to have the time in class to devote to doing projects, to creative learning, to getting kids out on our farm and things of that nature, it just can't happen in a 47-minute period, because by the time you get down there, get them changed into different clothes on the farm, whatever, get them back up to class, you have no time for instruction. And so we need to go to a longer period. So this is going to be similar to what you see in college. And what happens is instead of every kid having every subject every day, they're going to have fewer subjects on Monday and then different classes on Tuesday. So in this period, on A day, which would be like Monday, This is a typical sophomore. I didn't do a typical junior. I didn't do it for every, but I just picked a typical sophomore for next year. They would start with biology, move to English, then they would have a period of work, study, or electives. Then they can go to music, gymnastics, work, study. Those 2 periods are going to stay the same next year. Our music needs to meet every day. They need that repetition on a daily basis. And so our music instructors, they want to continue that. So that's why it's a modified block. Not every one of our periods will be a block period, but we're going to be in a modified so that we have some of the day that will meet every period, and the other ones will be blocked that they meet on an A-B schedule. Go to lunch, then you have choir, band, work, study, world, geo, and then work, study as well. On these work, study periods, elective periods, those are also options for when the kids, if they want to take music lessons during those periods, if they have a study hall or their work period. For a sophomore, for example, if they're done working, they'd be done at 3:58, unless they wanted to stay here and do different things of that nature in the afternoon. And then this is just the B day, just shows the other section of those sophomore classes there. I shared about the internships. I've already talked about this. Coordinating with the local businesses, no classwork. Our farm. I believe that it is hand in hand with what we are and what we're supposed to be with Adventist education to incorporate hands-on learning. And we have been blessed over the last 2.5 months. The beginning of this year, we had $100,000 given towards integrating a farm on our campus. 3 weeks ago, another $100,000 was given. So we have $200,000 that's been given to us to move forward in this capacity. We're right now looking for an individual to come in to spearhead this. But this is not going to be just a farm that's out there that some kids work on and we grow some stuff and we do student labor and we just try and make money with an industry. Yes, we want to make money on it. But the primary objective of this farm is going to be different in that our primary objective is going to be educational, not financial. It is going to be to incorporate into every class basic practices of learning with the kids engaged in using their hands and getting out there in projects. So I've met with our teachers and we've dialogued about this, but we're going to be beginning a rotation where teachers will actually rotate through the farm every class. English classes, math classes, biology. And they're going to take principles that they're teaching and incorporate it right there into the garden and the farm. And in the farms and in the work and the study and the research that I've done, over and over and over again, there's been correlation when kids are engaged in an atmosphere such as agriculture, such as this, they have better retention and better test scores. It is why, if you do research, you will see school gardens and school farms popping up all over in public education, especially at the elementary level and high school level as well. The other thing about this is where we want to be, I want to be cutting edge using technology. I want to show the kids that agriculture is not just about dirt and pulling weeds, but rather it's high tech. And so we're partnering, we're working with different companies right now. We just did a conference call on Friday with a company that's looking to assist us and give us guidance with looking at hydroponics. We're looking at the possibilities of shipping containers where you can grow microgreens in the shipping containers with LED lights. You can grow them year-round. There is so much out there right now. And I actually believe with our kids will be excited about those possibilities and those potentials if we just lay it out there before them. And also, our teachers, instead of this being an elective period where kids just choose to be on the farm, if you do it that way, you only touch a small percentage of your campus. The vast majority of your campus never sees and touches it if it's just a period where kids go and they say, okay, we're going to have a gardening period, and everybody that's interested in gardening goes there. But if you rotate the classes through it, and so every 2 or 3 weeks, your class is going through the farm, throughout the school year, you're actually touching your entire student body. And so that's our goal, that's our plan, and that's our objective with that. The next thing we're going to be doing this coming year. This year, we have advisories. But essentially, what happens is that when it's the quarter time, we give out kids their grades. But we're going to ramp that up significantly this next year. And what's going to happen is we're going to build an advisory period program into our day. We're going to shift our assembly to Fridays, and every other Friday, our students are going to be divided into advisory groups of about 15 to 17 students, and they will be paired with a faculty member. And instead of just having a chapel or assembly, they will go in small groups every other week, and they will simply have a short worship together, and then that teacher will then check in on these group of kids about how they're doing. They'll get progress reports. They'll talk to them about how's your school, how are things going for you, and check in on them. And it's our prayer that through this process, we can have fewer kids that fall between the cracks. And you can have fewer kids that fall behind because you have a regular mentor working with these kids, staying on top of them in a small group setting. And also, kids are accountable. They'll be accountable together as their advisory group. So we're gonna begin that this coming year, and that's gonna happen on every other Friday. Finally, I want to share with you a text that is my favorite scripture. And it is in Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I will tell you, we live in interesting times. We live in challenging times. Every principals meetings I go to, I see enrollment reports. And every single meeting, it seems, there is a continual decline in enrollment in Adventist education, both North American division, union level, conference level. There are some anomalies, but by and large, there is a steady decline over the last 10, 15, 20 years. It is happening. For us to say it's not, we're stick our heads in the sand and pretend. And so I think it's time for us in Adventist education, specifically at UCA, to relook, rethink how we do school on the premise of what God has called us to be, who he's called us to be, and why he's put this school here. I believe that UCA has an amazing foundation. In my 2 years here, I've got to see we have an awesome network of alumni, of supporters, of parents. So I believe we're uniquely positioned here at Upper Columbia Academy to step out and launch something like this, because it's not done out of a premise of we're waving the white flag and we're going to try something because we're dying. We're not. UCA is in a good financial position. We've got a good enrollment. We're doing well when you look at that compared to other boarding academies across the division. And so I think that gives us a unique platform to say, you know what, we're not making these changes because we're just going to take a Hail Mary pass and hope something works, but rather we're taking these changes so that we can be proactive and show families and constituencies, not just right here in Washington and Idaho, but all over, that we're willing to rethink how we do school, why we do school, and hopefully the outcomes that we have here will be represented to families all over who say, you know what, I want my child to be a part of that. I want my kid to have a chance of that type of education. As I've shared with a few families, the response that I've gotten, by and large, is, that excites me, Eric. That excites me. And so I've heard enough, as I said at the beginning, from different parents of, hey, I hear UCA is doing this. And I said, where did you hear that? And so that's why the town hall. That's why we're here, so I can kind of unpack it. I would ask for your patience and your understanding as we journey together through this, because I promise you, we will step in some mud puddles. There's going to be mistakes made. It's going to be a learning curve together. And it's not going to be something we just seamlessly move into and we just snap our fingers and August comes and we've got this transformation here without any type of issues. I've shared with my staff, we will be doing intensive training. I've already signed a contract. We're partnering with High Tech High. They're going to be bringing up some professionals for post-session as well as pre-session. We're going to be flying our staff to schools next year. Every one of our schools, every one of our teachers are going to fly to a school and watch in person. And we're going to continue professional development because it's going to take, it's like turning a big ship. You don't just spin the wheel and the ship does a 180, but rather it's like this. And so we're going to begin that turn and begin that shift, and it's going to start this coming fall. We have a donor that's stepping up to help us with that funding, with all of our professional development and other things as well, so that it's not coming out of our operational budget. And that is the conclusion of my remarks. So if you have questions, so that those who are watching on the live stream, we have a mic set up here. And I don't know if there's some questions that have come on online. If there's not, that's fine. If anybody has a question, instead of just, I know we could hear each other here, but if you could come to the mic and just state it there so everybody could hear it, if you have a question. I just ask, the only thing I ask is, I'm not prepared today to dive into the minutia. We don't have the exact schedule done yet. That's why that's why I only gave you sophomores. We're still working through that. So if you have a question on what's my son, he's going to be a junior, and what's he going to be taking sixth period, I don't know that yet. We're working through those type of things. But if you have general questions, either concerns about the direction you hear or whatever, I'm here to try and answer it the best I can.
I'm not my son. I was just wondering, what are you thinking of doing with kind of the practical skills? My son has taken welding, and so we're trying to figure out how to pay for college. And we've looked at basic entry-level jobs. He can make $18 an hour if he went to Walla Walla and worked. That's better than he can get paid anywhere else. So I'm just thinking, one thing I've really appreciated about UCA is that they've given kids practical skills, and I'm wondering what you're doing with that. I love the farm, that's great, that's practical. What else? We will still
continue. We're going to have a full industrial arts program, so we're still going to have that. That's not going away. I will tell you that we're re-looking at the classes that are taught there. For example, woodworking. Woodworking is wonderful, but would it be better served if we had a course in electrical or a course in plumbing instead of woodworking? If a kid leaves here, if they know how to build a chessboard, that's nice. Okay, it's nice. I'm not trying to, but would it be better served if they had some training in a core trade? So we are evaluating our industrial arts program and maybe looking at shifting a little bit in that way, but we're still going to have full offerings of electives with industrial arts. And the final announcements on what those classes will be made later this spring and this summer.
I have two questions from participants on the live stream. Okay. The first one is from Rebecca Harvey. How will the advisory groups be divided? How do you envision that?
The advisory groups are going to be randomly selected. We do not want for it to be kids just picking a group of friends and they just clump among their friends and that's their advisory. But rather the goal here is to create students from across the grades. Seniors will be paired with freshmen and so on, so they can interact, they can pray together, they can get to know each other in a small group setting throughout the school year and hopefully build better camaraderie amongst our classes. So that will be done on a random basis.
There's a follow-up question about the advisory groups that I will put before the other one from Holly Baruchia. Will the students that are divided into the advisory groups have the same staff member throughout the year, and will it also be the same students for the group?
Yes. They're going to follow in a group, and they're going to follow with that staff member throughout the year so that they can build that relationship with them.
And then the other question from Ron Fleck is, any updates on the equestrian program, barn, riding arena, etc.?
The equestrian program is moving forward as well. The steel should be delivered to our campus, I believe it's March 23. It got delayed, and so the steel will be here, and the construction is going forward on that. The arena should be completed. I spoke to the contractor this last week. The arena should be completed sometime the latter part of May, and we'll have a full indoor arena. We're going to be offering a horsemanship class next year that students can take in lieu of PE credit if they would like. And students will be able to bring their horses. We're going to be offering, probably not this summer because of the delay in getting our arena up and getting things, but beginning next summer, a full summer camp offerings, day camps for kids who want to come and take riding lessons and have a day camp here for horses. So that is moving forward, and that is a component of this program as well. If you saw the Gleaner that just came out, the back page of the Gleaner, we had an ad for Upper Columbia Academy, and it's highlighting our equestrian program. And we already have students who are waiting to come here next year that can bring their horse. We have students this year that have their horse, and that's growing for next year. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Oh, Laura. You have to go to the mic only because we want those that are watching online to be able to hear you.
So, I guess I'm a little taller. As far as project-based learning, one of the things that I've found even this year with being the parent of a village student is the difficulty of having group projects and not being on campus in the evening. Even in like the ELS class, you know, there wasn't enough time in class to complete projects. So when we asked about it, can he do it at home? No, because he needs to be here doing it. I open it up in the evenings, but we're not here in the evenings. So are these all going to be group projects? How much of it can be done during class time? Is definitely an issue for some of us who don't have our kids living here. And then I'm going to ask my second one just because I'm going to go sit down. How do you make sure when you're doing the project-based learning that we're still adequately covering what kids need for standardized testing? So.
Thank you, Laura. The first question regarding the time, High Tech High is a day school, and they have that same issue. None of their kids are on campus. So the majority, if not all, of these projects are going to be done in the confines of the class time. A lot of it is, at least. That is the reason we're going to a longer period, to allow for that time. So it's not going to be to where kids are going to have to do a whole lot of time in the evenings. There will be some. There may be some of that. But the idea is to be able to incorporate some class time for that. And I just blanked on your second part of your last question was, oh, the academics. So we are not going to be, and I want to make very clear, it's not just going to be where kids walk into a class and there's a free-for-all and they're just trying to design some project that they think they're still going to be covering content, and we're still going to be covering the basics of geometry and Algebra 1, don't fear that we're not going to be covering content. It's all going to be built in there. It's just going to be done in what I believe in my research and looking at other schools in a way that's going to actually have kids better retain it, because they're going to be applying those principles directly and immediately right onto a hands-on project. And I will tell you this, though, we're going to be, it will be a shift, because right now, if you take our curriculum, we go throughout the year and we do this, okay? And you have a thin layer that you go all through year, because you're just chugging along. By transitioning to this mode, you're actually going to go this, but you're gonna have less but deeper, and so again, we're going to see how it goes. It's going to be a learning process, but everything that I've seen and the individuals I've talked to have indicated that going that deeper actually helps the kids retain it more and actually perform better on their standardized testing. They showed me the data when we were down there at High Tech High, and it speaks for itself. Their test scores and their college entrance and college acceptance rates, they beat hands down. It's phenomenal. Yes?
A couple more questions here from our guest watching online. Rebecca Harvey asks, will the internships be centered on the student career goals? And Keith Acker follows that up with, is there some sort of career counseling to help students figure out what career they may be interested in?
Okay. Yes, we have career counseling. We have a career day this year, but I want to make sure that there's no confusion. The internship is not a career day. It's not a career. It's not where your kids are going to pick that they want to go and they want to be a doctor, and so we go put them in a medical place. That may happen, but just to give you an example here, if we have 70 juniors and most of them want to be in a medical place, that may not logistically be possible to find that. And so the goal of the internship, as I've talked to different people who have operated it, specifically some of the professionals, is not necessarily a career guidance tool, but rather a understanding of what life is like in a workplace and engaging the kids there and then having them write about it and build a portfolio and to gain those experiences outside of the classroom during their high school years. That is the benefit that's driven from an internship. If it's something that the kids choose that they want to go into later on, that's just an added plus. And if it works out to have the kids engaged in an internship that is directly related to their career, great, that's a bonus. But we're not going to say we're going to match you with where you want to be because it may not logistically be possible for us to do that.
I have a question from Angel Base. Given that electrical and plumbing have very specific certification requirements that include training and supervision time under qualities, I think she meant qualified professionals, why would we consider cutting our woodworking?
Well, I want to be careful. I didn't say we're going to be doing away with woodworking. I just use an example that we might be looking to move in a possibly different direction. If we do electrical, if we do those type of things, we bring in a certificated individual who was a certified electrician. We may not be able to give a kid an actual certificate in welding or electrical due to the number of hours. Just for example, I believe it's 100 hours of welding that you have to get in order to get a certificate. So it may not happen as far as a certificate level, but if we can engage them in a class where a kid can graduate from here and say, you know what, they can put on their application to a job or their resume, they tell an employer, hey, I had an entire year of this, we believe it can be helpful for them in that process. Angel
followed that up with, which gives our kids, hang on, it's not going down the way, which gives our kids important life skills as addressed in Ellen White quote on the wall outside the building from mission work. And I was responding that our current project, our current woodworking class doesn't really teach skills to like build a house so much as it just kind of projects and things. And so that could be something that would even be, you know, how to read a blueprint and things like that.
I want to be very careful. I'm not trying in any way to downplay what we do in woodworking. It's a great class. Kids like it. It's good. My only comment is that it might be possible for us to look at other ways as well to give them things that they can have job readiness with as they leave here. Anything else?
Eric.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for putting this together.
You're welcome.
I think for the most part, people here are tracking well with this, and we see what you're sharing. Can't speak for the people, of course, online right now, but I was wondering if HTH, maybe to calm some questions, I shouldn't say fears, but if HTH had available kind of a sample class period that they could demonstrate or have this, so UCA could put this online, send it out to parents so they say, ah, I get what he's now saying, and they could see for themselves how this would look for the sister's comments here about project-based learning and what that actually looks like for people that are still kind of uneasy with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. I want to share with you, we are not going to be going to a full project-based model such as High Tech High. We're not ready. That school was built from the ground up with all teachers trained in it. And so it's going to be a multi-year journey. So I want to be very clear that next year, we're not going to be full, complete project-based learning in the classroom. We've decided as a board and as a faculty to do this in stages and grow this direction. So next year, our goal, as I've shared with our faculty, is that for them to do a project and incorporate a project. But quite honestly, a lot of the class time is going to be similar, but we're going to be trying to move this direction and incorporate time with the farm, incorporate a project into the class structure. What we don't want to see happen is go to a longer period and then just simply try and cram 2 lessons into a period and inundate the kids with just double the work. So we lengthen the class, we just double the work. That is not our objective, that's not our goal. So that's not what we're looking to do. But to your point, we will be having teachers from High Tech High on our campus in the spring and in the fall, training our teachers, and I can connect with them to see if we can get some information that we can share with what they are doing, so that I can disseminate that, and I think that can happen, Ron. So, to your point, I will try and make that sure that happens, so that you can get a taste at least of what we saw and kind of what we're looking to move towards. Now, I just answered a question from you online.
Yes, you did, and I'm glad I was able to
That's pretty quick.
Well, I actually went to Schweitzer, and I was trying to make it back for this, so I'm glad I was able to make it at least for the rest of the Q&A. But you know, as a follow-up to the question, and it's difficult to try to type it all out, I'm wondering, and first of all, I guess I want to say, I actually appreciate the project-based learning style, and I appreciate the block schedule. We've actually dealt with that program in other schools. As many people may know, that we actually have integrated other learning in addition to what's been going on here at UCA, in part so that my youngest son could participate in athletics. And the public school that is in our district actually has a block learning. So I think last year he had 13 different schedules that he was coordinating. But at any rate, along those same lines, as we're moving this direction, part of my question, too, is in that concern of our mission focus. I appreciate that we are preparing our kids for the workforce here in the U.S., but I am concerned a little bit when I hear that instead of woodworking, maybe we would do plumbing or electrical. And I'm concerned about losing some of those practical life skills that really we have done, and it's steeped in our history, so that we could also prepare our kids for work in the mission field. And I think that some of those things might be useful, but in our third world countries, electrical is not so useful as woodworking. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, and because I'm concerned about losing some of those practical life skills when that's been our history.
Well, let me try and set the record straight. We're not doing away with woodworking. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here. I want to be clear. We're going to have woodworking. All I was saying is that right now we have almost half the shop devoted to just woodworking. And so my point was, if we can diversify, if we can find other means of electives that can offer in addition to woodworking, I think it would be a benefit for our kids to add more choices. So if they wanted to choose woods, great. If we had an option for electrical, an option for plumbing in addition to woods, I just think it's a win to be able to provide more. That was my point. Maybe that was poorly said earlier. Maybe I wasn't clear on how that was done, but we're not going to be cutting that program. Anything else? Yes.
Hi, I like the idea of the thinkers and not reflectors. I like giving them practical skills. I know that there's we have the kids work on campus, and I just want to make sure that we're doing well what's already set in place at this school, and doing it to our very best. I was curious if janitorial is internship worthy, and if it is, we can start by training the kids right now with what's in place right now to do janitorial to their very best, and that gives them a sense of ownership. I know with keeping kids in the church and keeping them happy, keeping them involved, is giving them a sense of ownership. And if they do their job well, in just, for example, janitorial, it's going to make them happy and make them part of. And I just want to make sure that with all the bells and whistles, we don't forget that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a daughter who's a junior this year, and my interest is, what are you doing for the seniors next year?
Well, the seniors are going to be part of this whole program. They're going to do everything. They just won't have the internship. I realize, and I will tell you, if there's anyone that was thinking that there's any bias here, my son will be a senior too. And so if I was doing this, I want my son to be a part of that internship, but in looking at the best thing for our school and the best thing for our kids with our calendar, it just doesn't work for seniors because it doesn't give them enough time to get that on their college application, And I'm sorry we weren't able to start it this year, but it is what it is as far as the internship. That will be started for our juniors. The seniors will be part of everything else we're doing, but I can't provide that for the seniors as well next year. Yes?
Holly Brutti is asking, will part of the farm curriculum include time in the kitchen, learning how to use the foods in different ways to give more appeal to the students?
Absolutely. A part of the farm curriculum is going to be totality of from seed all the way to the market. So we're going to have sections where we teach kids about developing relationships with Spokane. My goal is that we can develop some relationships with boutique hotels, with some different restaurants, where we can partner with them to provide them with some of our produce here, as well as in the cafeteria about how to make it and produce it in tasteful manners, so they can learn to eat healthfully and learn the benefits of that. And I speak as one who needs to learn that myself. You can ask my wife. I need to do a better job of eating healthfully myself. Yes, sir.
Eric, how do AP classes fit into this?
AP will stay the same. AP will be what it is. I will tell you, and I got to be careful here, I believe personally that it would be best for us to move away from AP and to dual credit. And I will tell you why. Because dual credit classes, the student passes the class, they automatically have those college credits. An AP class, you can do well in the class, but if you have test anxiety or if you struggle and you don't get that 3 or 4 or 5 on your AP exam, for those of you who know about AP, you're sunk. You've done a whole year and you're sunk. So my actual long-term vision would be that we're able to move away from AP and move to dual credit. And I've actually had some dialogue with a new vice president of academics for Walla Walla, and they are actually willing to look and bend some of their long, fast rules that they've had about having to have a teacher with a master's degree in the content area before they can teach a subject. Because we have Eastern Washington University that's willing to use teachers that don't have a master's in their subject area and teach a dual credit. Why can't we work with our good friends at Walla Walla to do the same? And so my first goal is not to partner with Eastern, but to partner with Walla Walla and work that. So AP is going to stay the same. It will go forward for next year, but long term, I'd like to shift us more to a dual credit model where we offer more dual credits instead of just APs. That's just my personal preference. Yes.
Hi again. I hear you say that numbers are declining across the board, and I know this has been kind of a long-term problem with our Adventist academies. As I raised my own kids here in Spokane for the last dozen years, as we were marching up to the academy years, I would talk to other parents at church who had kids in those high school years who would send our kids either to the Valley School or to was Spokane Junior Academy, now Palisades. They would switch their kids to the public school system primarily for the athletics. And again, I appreciate all that we are talking about with respect to project-based learning and even the block system, but I also look at the sample schedule that you put up, and it looks like that sophomores would be getting out of geography at it was somewhere at 4:30, something like that. For my own son, my youngest, and in particular, we did league athletics until high school, and then he went through PCA, again, also in part so that we could take advantage of being in town for the competitive athletics that our school systems don't offer, and he's been with the public high school system since his freshman year. I've had actually several parents who have come up to me and asked me, how do you get UCA to work with you? Because it is kind of been known in our community that if you want your kids in competitive athletics, you pretty much go put them in the public school system. I haven't wanted to do that. I think that the academics, as superior in my humble opinion in our school system, as well as the community environment, that's been a deciding factor for me. But for some other parents, the deciding factor is then the athletics, and they figure they've given it their good 8 years. But I'm concerned with this new schedule. If we keep the music in the middle of the day, then we will be cutting out any time for village kids to be able to participate in competitive athletics. My answer to other parents has been, well, UCA hasn't worked with us. We have worked out the schedule. You're going to have to do a lot of legwork on your own. But with this new schedule, it cuts out the ability to do that legwork. I'm wondering if we have thought about how to capture and draw in those other outlying families that are making those other decisions based on, either athletics or, other programs that they want to put their kids into. But that's been an issue for us. And my student is graduating this year. I'm also looking what I'm going to do with my alumni dollars or their alumni dollars. That's why I came back again today. But I'm wondering if we are talking about other things and maybe there might be a possibility of switching the schedule around so that there would be that free time in the afternoon for students that is important to, so we could still keep them here.
Thank you. We're looking at all different types of things. Currently, the schedule is pretty much staying the same as in the music in the middle of the day. And the reason that is because we don't want to have kids have to choose between music and athletics. And if we have music at the end of the day, it forces them to choose between that. And so we put it in the middle of the day, and then we can have kids in our music organizations as well as our athletic organizations and not have to make that choice. So I realize it's not ideal. It's not perfect for everyone, but that's where we are with that. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Daniel Engel.
Yes.
And I had a question. What I've heard so far sounds very exciting. I'm wondering if you also are opening up the opportunity for the large community within the Spokane area of assisting you in some way, because I know there's a tremendous number of intellectual property and knowledge and people like that around. And we'd be open to understand how we can help you with this process as well. So it's not just the teachers, it's not just the school, but it's the community.
And I will share with you, you've touched on something that's dear to me, is I believe we need to form a much better partnership. I will tell you, just today I got an email from an individual that says, hey, I know of somebody who's got a large greenhouse with hydroponics. They may want to just give to the school. And give me a call. And so to your point, absolutely. I want those partnerships. I want us to work with our greater community and engage in both volunteers as well as individuals that have intellectual knowledge that can come alongside and support us and help us. Guys, as we wrap up here, I told you we'd be done by 5:30, and it's about 5:15, so we're close. But I want to conclude with this. I want to make sure there's no mistake. With these changes, the one thing that will remain the same is our steadfast commitment to connecting these kids to Jesus Christ. That's why we're here. That is why we're here. And so that will be first and foremost. And I pray that through some of these changes to our Bible curriculum, through some of the things we're doing on our campus, through the advisory periods, we're going to continue our weekly worship options where students can come to the faculty homes and have Bible study and that type of nature that will connect these kids to a saved relationship with Christ. That's why I do what I do. I know that's why our teachers do what they do. And it's my prayer going forward that these changes will just be able to amplify what we do here to connect the kids to Christ. I look forward to partnering with you. I will tell you, I'm not afraid to hear if you don't agree, so it's okay. If you don't agree, if you think we're just completely off track, come and see me. Tell me why. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk to you. But I do pray that as we move forward, that we'll move forward together. That hopefully to this time today we'll add clarity to the conversations that are happening around your dinner tables. It will add clarity to what's being discussed in potluck at church as far as what's happening at UCA, and that you can be our hands and feet, both here locally and then those watching on the live stream, as far as where UCA is headed. We're flying down to Loma Linda in another week and a half with our octet. Loma Linda Broadcasting, we've got a donor that's paying. We're going to have an hour promotional on Loma Linda Broadcasting, and we're going to share down there about who we are. We're going to do a concert. Mr. Kravitz is going to preach a sermon, and they're going to have some testimonies from kids. I've gotten some calls from families in Loma Linda, and they say, you know what? UCA fits what we're looking for as an academy. And they said, you guys need to be down here. There is a lot of families that are looking for what you offer. So I believe we're really touching the tip of the iceberg of what God can do in and through our campus if we stay true to him. So that is my prayer. We'll close with prayer. I'll be available afterwards. If you want to just come up and ask any personal question, that's fine. Lord, thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to share, to dialogue. Thank you for the parents that came out and those that took the time to watch online. Father, as we begin this journey of what our faculty and staff and board feels like you're calling us to go at UCA, Father, first and foremost, help our eyes to remain steadfastly fixed on you. Because only with that, Father, will we have any measure of success. If we take our eyes off you and we start looking to ourselves or we start looking to programs, Lord, we will stumble and fall. So guide us, direct us to that end. Go with us now. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon. There are some cookies over here. It looks like not very many people have touched them yet. There's some oranges and some water. So have a good evening.